Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us. If you're here after doing the replay, just to let you guys know that if you go see it on the desktop, you can actually put it to be faster by 2 times speed. So just letting you guys know if you guys are watching on the replay. Thank you to everyone who's joining us right now. Today we're going to be talking to Viv from Overgen Poverty about how to help your immigrant parents invest and build their own wealth. So happy to see you guys here. Let me invite Viv over so we can start having a conversation. You guys are joining us. Tell us where you guys are joining us from, because I love to see where we're reaching and who we're talking to. Hey, Viv.
Hey, hi Maribel, how are you?
I'm like, it always gets me off when I'm like sharing the
I
screen.
know.
Hey, so excited to talk about this topic. I know we had talked about earlier about doing live together, so I'm so glad that we're able to do this now.
Yeah, for
Do you
sure.
want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm Viv from Overgen Poverty. I'll just keep it short. I'm a first gen daughter of Mexican immigrants. My parents, they were undocumented for a very, very long time. It wasn't until I was, I think, in high school, whenever they finally became citizens. And it wasn't until recently that I started. I actually opened an account for them, an investment account, a retirement account. Um, but yeah, I'm new to the world of investing, and I'm trying to get like my family to also like participate in it because I obviously want them to build their own wealth as well. So I can't wait to talk more and get into the details.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And a little introduction to me. Again, everybody put where you guys are coming from or what your heritage is down in the comments. So I'm Maribel from Our Wealth Matters, and I'm also a first gen daughter of immigrants. My parents are from Mexico, and my mom's status is as a resident, so not a citizen at this point. So super excited to talk about this topic. Again, our topic today is going to be help your immigrant parents invest and build for their own future. So do you want to get started, Viv, with one of
Yeah,
our first
so
questions?
the first thing we kind of wanted to talk about was just like, the story of our parents and like where are they now. We kind of touched about it. We kind of like talked about it a little bit, introduced it, but yeah, my parents they came here illegally, so they crossed the border without papers, and as many of you probably know, you know, trying to become a resident and then a citizen after crossing the border without papers is really, really hard. It takes a really long time. And I feel like a lot of the times, too, our parents are scared of being deported, of, like losing everything that they built here and having to start over in Mexico, especially with children that are citizens. So um, my
Yeah.
mom, my mom for a long time, she worked like under the table. So
Mm-hmm.
she was like getting paid in cash, and my dad too. So it wasn't until, like I said, in high school that my dad started working a minimum wage job. Thankfully, they did offer him some benefits like healthcare, but it wasn't really good healthcare. Um, and they did actually offer him a pension after like I think 30 years of service or something like that. So he's still working towards that. But that's as far as he knows in terms of like retirement. Like he just knows like that he's going to get a social security check and that he has that pension. But it wasn't until recently that I was able to tell them, hey, you guys can actually open your own Roth IRA.
Yeah.
Um, and I opened up a Roth IRA for both of them through Fidelity. It was
Mm-hmm.
really easy. It took 2 minutes to do that. And so I'll get into more details in a bit. I'll let you talk about your story, where your parents are now.
Yeah. So my parents also came here illegally con un coyote. If anybody has a similar background, just shout us out down at the bottom because we know the background, right? And that's kind of different from a lot of other personal finance people and information out there. Whereas Latinos, we can relate and we could be like, yeah, we went through the same thing. Our parents went through the same thing. So I think at some point my mom was working under the table, but then she got a job as a seamstress, and I recall believing to seeing checks and some check stubs. Now my dad's out of the picture, but my mom has her own income tax business, and so she's here just kind of doing her thing, which I believe even so an accountant is different, but I think even for that you don't necessarily have to have a social security number, which I believe is like what like even as an immigrant, even if you don't have a social security number, you can succeed in the United States, right? And it must we just have to know how, and I feel like that's why us as Latinos putting content out there and just letting other people know that this is possible lets them know that this is a venue that they can go down and look uh, at these different careers to still be successful and monetarily successful, even if they don't have, social security or citizenship.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And like you said, I think a lot of people don't know, they don't have that information, so they kind of just settle, and are very grateful for like the minimum wage job that they find. You know,
Mm,
the first place that accepts them and that says, okay, I'm going to pay you like $9 an hour washing dishes, they're like, oh my God, this is so much better than, you know, my job in Mexico or my job in El Salvador or wherever I came from. And then they
yeah,
just don't, they just I think get stuck there because, like I said, they're just that's like the best they know, and there's no one there
yeah,
to guide them and tell them like, hey, you can do better.
yeah.
So
Because I feel like
definitely,
it's not. Yeah, and I feel like it's not like they don't have higher aspirations, and it's none of that. I think it's just lack of information and education, right? Like how some people are like, how do you not open a 401k or an IRA? And it's like, well, nobody told me how to even start doing this, which is
yeah,
why I love what that we're talking on, touching on that today a little bit. So we
yeah,
can move on to the next one, which gets us to how can immigrants invest, and what about those without Social Security? So immigrants just know, yes, immigrants can invest here in the United States. There are a couple of platforms that have a post about it, one of them being with Fidelity, Charles Schwab, and TD Ameritrade. And this is, you can invest even if you don't have a social security number, right? Either with an IRA or personal brokerage. 401k, you have to see with your employer because that one is open through your employer. And is so if somebody has an ITIN but is working with a social security number, just navigate that carefully.
mm-hmm,
But let's say IRA, you open that for yourself as an individual, so you can open that with an ITIN. Same for a personal brokerage, you can open that with an ITIN. So it is very possible to invest even if you don't have the resident status or the citizenship status. So, don't be deterred from building wealth just because you're like, so immigrante, and, I don't have proper citizenship status, so maybe I can't. Just as long as you're actually reporting your income on your taxes, then you can use that money to also start investing, right? So
yeah,
because si estás bajando, like if you're working under the table, right, and you say I earned $5,000, but you're gonna make a $10,000 contribution to your IRA and a personal brokerage, IRS is gonna come down going like these numbers aren't adding up. This
yeah,
math is not matching, right? So that's where we kind of have to do that mind shift of like, yes, if you work in cash, you're not, and you don't report it, you're not gonna have to pay taxes on that. But if we're trying to level up our wealth as a family and just, do the generational wealth, we're gonna have to start, showing that we are earning some money
mm-hmm,
para so that we can then go and invest that money so that it can make us more money.
exactly. For those of you guys that don't know, or that have maybe parents that don't know, the way you get an individual tax ID number, which is the ITIN, you have to fill out a form. I think it's a W-7. And
Mhm.
so if you guys, are helping your parents, or if you guys yourselves are trying to navigate this, highly recommend going to a nonprofit immigration firm. For example, I used to work for the Legal Aid Society, and we used to help a lot of immigrants getting their ITIN. This is
Mhm.
super easy for attorneys to do while they're helping you with your immigration proceedings. So definitely like consult them first, and see if you can get that, if they can help you fill out that form so you don't fill it out wrong. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah.
And I also know that through our income tax services, we also offer that service to fill out ITINs. Por lo mismo, because we are a tax firm, somebody's like, they come to us and they're like, I've never done taxes. Or we get some clients that come and, they're like, I've never done taxes and I've been here for X amount of years. And you're like,
Yeah.
all the refunds you probably are missing out on. so that they come with to us, and sometimes they don't have an ITIN number, so we help them fill it out too because it helps them, it helps us get their process done. So
Yeah.
there are people out there willing to help you guys. So just
Hmm.
do a research so that, again, as Viv said, so to make sure that you don't fill it out wrong, because we definitely don't want you guys missing out on your refunds, on filing your taxes, and on being able to use the money that you made to build wealth through investing.
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of people are probably fearful that like if they go to an accountant, or if they go to a nonprofit, or if they go to like any kind of professional, that the professional isn't going to protect them, and like,
Mhm.
maybe report that they're here
Yeah,
without documents, but that's actually not the
yeah.
case.
Right. So actually, your taxes go to the IRS, and so like for a brokerage account, they give you an IRS like tax form, or they give you a tax form, right? So it goes to the IRS. They also give information to the IRS. However, the IRS database is different from the database from ICE. And only under extreme circumstances will they share information, but they don't normally on the regular share information. So don't be afraid of, doing your taxes, or going to do your taxes, or do something that relates to the IRS for fear of then having ICE like knocking on your door. Like that's
Yeah.
not how the systems operate in the US.
Yeah, and just to sum it up, I guess, whenever I used to work for the Legal Aid Society, I used to work with people that were in deportation proceedings. So
Mhm.
like trying to fight against them being deported. And so a lot of what helped was getting their tax returns. And like if you have a history of like filing your taxes every year, that actually worked for your case. So it would look better whenever the person would be upon the judge, and we would present our case. If the person was like a taxpayer for X amount of years, and they've been here for the same amount of years, or similar number of years, then it just looks better. So yeah, so if anything, it's like a good thing.
Yes, because even though you're not like a citizen, it shows that you're a contributing member to society. That even though you don't have citizenship or residency status, you're still doing your part in order to sustain the society and the economic system in the country that you are residing in. So it only looks better if you actually are up to date with your taxes. But to sum it back and bring it back to our topic today, we're talking about taxes because if you report your income in your taxes, that's the way that you can then also use that money to invest. So the example that I had presented before, if you're only reporting, say, $5,000 of income in your taxes, but then you want to make a 10,000 contribution to an IRA and a personal brokerage account, that math is not going to math, and the IRS is definitely going to notice. Uh,
Yep.
do you want to move on to the next one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, we got carried away with that topic, but yeah. So let's talk about if a person now has an ITAN, what like investment account should they open first? Because I know like a lot of people during the pandemic, Robinhood became this big thing where everybody started opening Robinhood accounts, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm investing my money, but is there like smarter ways to invest your money?
I would say go for the tax advantaged accounts. And this would be like your retirement type of accounts because this is like your 401k or your IRA first because you only pay taxes. Let's go with the Roth version, which means you
Yeah.
pay taxes up front, right? You only pay taxes once when you get in your W 2, and then you put it in. And if it's a Roth account, at the end, any dividends and any additional growth from the sale is you're going to get that tax free. If you put it into a personal brokerage account, you're going to get taxed once when that money comes in through your checks and your W 2, once when on those dividends, and at the end on capital gains tax.
Hmm.
I am a tax preparer, so this is kind of why I keep mentioning a bunch of tax things.
Yeah.
So this is 3 times that your money is taxed, right? As opposed to a retirement account, if it's a Roth account, it's only going to get taxed once. So what do you prefer, 3 or 1? I
Mhm.
prefer 1. So
Yeah.
I would suggest first starting off with the 401k, the IRAs, and you can check traditional versus Roth and see which one is best for your situation. Viv, do
Yeah.
you have any other ideas?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, like, I think a lot of people don't know that tax advantaged accounts exist, and it's not just like Robinhood and like Webull and
Yeah.
all those like, fun like apps that you invest on. I think this like the smart thing to do would definitely be to first invest in your retirement accounts because, like you said, those are tax advantaged. So you are saving
Mhm.
money either in the present or in the future. And then if you like, max out those retirement accounts or like have contributed a significant amount in those accounts, then you can like play around with, couple couple dollars or a couple $100 and invest those if you really want to in a Robinhood or a Webull. But last time I checked, Robinhood does not accept ITINs. They only accept social security numbers. So that's also like a con to using Robinhood, I think. Yeah, I think you covered a lot of it. I will
Yeah.
kind of
I want to
sorry.
say that specifically because you are talking about Robinhood and Webull. So these are going to be examples of personal brokerage accounts in case some of you guys like an example. Fidelity per se is a brokerage that has many different accounts that you can open. And one that I did forget to mention is your HSA, which is a health savings plan. If you're into the FIRE movement, you can actually use that because you use it, it's like an FSA. Basically, you can only use the money for medical purposes, but there's no limit on when you can actually charge something. So say I had a $10,000 bill, I can actually leave that money invested and let it grow in the stock market. And 10 years from now, 20 years from now, as long as I haven't lost the receipt, I can be like, okay, now that that money has grown, now pay me back the $10,000 that I, used for this surgery or whatever. So you
Yeah.
can actually invest your money in an HSA again, but we may be getting a little that's a little bit more advanced for the people who do have an HSA. I would also recommend looking into that.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I think start off, like you said, for somebody that is just starting their investment journey, I think definitely like I would say an IRA. I know
Yes,
like with 401ks, like you said before.
something to get a match on the
Hmm.
401k.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
your employer offers it, definitely take advantage of it. But I feel like a lot of our parents or our immigrant family members, they don't work at jobs that do offer 401k match.
So
But yeah, uh, or those that are again like working like under the table or like receiving cash, like those options may not be available to you. So the alternatives would be like an IRA. Um,
yeah, as long as your math matches out, right? So make sure you
yeah.
don't like report less on your taxes than what you're actually contributing to your investments because
Hmm.
IRS will notice.
Yeah. Okay, so then let's move on to the next question. So the next question is, if your parents are or you are low income and in debt, right? How can we help them build wealth? Can they still invest if they're trying to pay off debt?
I would say yes. Do you want to take lead on this one?
Yeah, so I would say yes, like you said. I think definitely like doing both helps, especially if you can get your interest rate on your whatever your debt is, if you can get that lower, as low as possible. And you can obviously do that, well, not obviously, but you can do that by doing like a consolidation with a company, or you can do that by calling the credit card companies directly and asking them to lower your rate and explaining why, like, either like COVID or um, you just can't pay your minimum payment anymore. Usually they will work with you. Um, what I personally did when I was paying off my debt is I did a consolidation type program where I paid a company to manage all my accounts and like call the credit card companies directly. And they lowered my rates to uh, an average of 10%. I'd say my credit card APRs were like 25% before that, and then they lowered it to about 10. And I did have to pay a fee to that company. So if you could like, not do that and like call the credit card companies directly, and skip through that fee, I would definitely recommend that first. I didn't know at the time that I could do that, so that's why I didn't do it. But yeah, lower the debt rate as much as possible, and then invest whatever you can into a retirement account, because a stock market on average does 10%. So if you're paying off debt that is like 10% or lower, and you're averaging 10, 11, 12% on the stock market, you're still making money.
Yeah, and we do have a question from, it said, when you used that company, did you see a hit on your credit score?
Yeah, I did. My credit score dropped a lot because they actually closed all my credit card accounts. Um, and I think whenever I started the program, I think my credit score was like low 700s, and then after that, it was
Mhm.
like mid 600s. But
Yeah.
actually, after I paid off my debt, which was last year, um, my credit score went back up to it's right now it's high 700s. I don't know the exact number, but it is.
Mhm.
Last time I checked was I think like 770 something, 769, something like that. So it is like getting back up there. Obviously, I know it's going to take time because I closed all my accounts. So like my my
Yeah.
my activity, my history is like pretty low. I had to reopen new credit cards. I had to reopen a
Mhm.
securitized card.
Mhm.
Um, and so we can talk about that too. Like maybe a different day, building credit and stuff like that. But yeah, that's how I
Yeah.
started to raise my credit again.
So that's super helpful information because I feel like if anybody's thinking about consolidating their debt, I feel like that's great information to know. You know, your credit score will take a hit, but as long as you're good at paying off that debt, once you do consolidate it, then your score will go back up. And I think one of the biggest things that contributes to your credit score is actually the length of history that you've had, right? So
Yeah.
if you at least can pay off and make sure to have that like first credit card that you open still open, I think that still helps you because it shows that you've actually been borrowing and trying to pay off debt
Yeah.
for a certain amount of time versus if they close it, that window becomes shorter.
Yeah, for sure. Did you want to add anything else that I might have missed
Um,
to the investing in debt?
yeah, so I also know that you can per se try to roll it over into a new credit card. So if you do get a new credit card, like offers, sometimes they offer a certain amount of months and where you can roll it over and you get 0% APR. But
Mhm.
also keep in mind, try to have a plan to pay off this debt before you do that because once that time is up, like a 13-month window is up, your rates are going to shoot back up again. So it doesn't matter how good you've like tried at paying it off. If you're not able to pay it off by then, just know that your debt is going to start to shoot up again. So definitely have a plan, have like a pay off plan in mind when you're going through this type of process.
Yeah. And then one last thing that I wanted to add was my dad actually went bankrupt when I was in
Mm-hmm.
college, I believe. And that took a he took a really, really bad hit to his credit score. Like he still hasn't
Mm-hmm.
recovered from that. And actually it was costly too. Like I think he had to pay the lawyer who was like doing his paperwork for his like filing. He had to pay him, I
Mm-hmm.
think, $3,000 just to
Yeah.
file for bankruptcy. Yeah. I don't know if that's like a normal price, but that's what he paid. And he had over $20,000 in debt. So that's why
Mm-hmm.
he decided that like bankruptcy was an option for him, because he thought that he just couldn't like pay off the $20,000. I mean, he was making at the time um around $30,000 a year. So it was like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it like
Yeah.
kind of impossible for him to do that, or it would take him a really, really long time. So he did file for bankruptcy, and that was an option for him because he was a citizen. He is a citizen. I'm not sure if those with ITIN numbers can do that. Do you know? But
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have knowledge of that. But if anybody does have an ITIN and has gone through that process, let us know in the comments. Or if you're watching the replay of this, let us know down in the comments because we would love to know and share the information with everybody else as well.
yeah. So yeah, so that's all I have on like investing in debt. I guess the next question would just be like, what advice, Maribel, can you share with others who can relate to you and your story or your background?
Yeah, I would say definitely look into that 401k. If your job offers it, look into it and see if you have a match. So yesterday, I went to Taco Naso and like they're not sponsoring me or anything. I just like their fish tacos and
Yeah.
they're actually hiring. And so one of the things, it had little bullet points. One of the things was 401k. So I was like asking the guy at the register, I was like, so what's the 401k match? And he's like, oh, what? And I was like, what's the 401k match? And he's like, oh, I don't know. I'm not into that. And I was like, you're not into retirement? So definitely look into it, guys. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get to old age and retirement. I prefer that we're all wealthy and well off, and we can actually sustain ourselves
Yeah.
instead of getting to that age because we're gonna time passes by anyway. Getting to that age and then not being able to sustain ourselves and just know Social Security is not going to be enough. And if you're a millennial like me, I've definitely heard like Social Security is not even going to be a thing. So
Yeah.
I don't even account for it in any of my calculations. If I ever do get Social Security, I'm just going to see it like icing on top. You guys know that pensions are more than likely, unless you work in government or some type of other company, more than likely you're not going to get a pension anymore. So we don't have pensions anymore. We may not have Social Security. So definitely look into your retirement accounts, which are those 401ks and those IRAs if
Yeah.
you have an ITIN and maybe you gave a social security number at work instead of your ITIN.
Yeah. That's a great piece of advice. My piece of advice for everybody is definitely not to like hoard money in a savings account and invest it instead. I think like from like my experience or like my aunts, my uncles, like a lot of them they don't know about investing, but they do like they're responsible with their money and they save.
Mm-hmm.
But inflation, the other day I was reading that inflation is up 5.4% like from last year. So it's just like, if you're not investing, you're losing money. Your money is just sitting there making like 0.01%. And that's you're losing out on a lot of money. So definitely investing, grow your money, use tax advantage retirement accounts first, and know that you can invest with an ITIN number, and not just citizens can invest, but immigrants can also invest. Um, Somebody said 401k in retirement is great, but also we should encourage life insurance in case we don't live long. It'll help our families. Um, Okay, you're a millennial as well. That's definitely a topic that we can talk about another time because I know we're like over time. But yes, definitely planning in case of an emergency or in case of death is super, super important.
Yes. And if you have children, especially I would say do an estate plan. You never know what's going to happen. So make sure that you have your things in order. Who gets the children in case, you pass away and have an untimely
Yeah,
situation? Where are your money accounts? What are those passwords so that your children are like they don't end up in the foster system before somebody like gets them, right? Definitely make those preparations ideally before because if you're and I've definitely heard, right? Like when you sit down with your partner, you sit down to make an estate plan, it sucks because you're thinking about, okay, this is only going to be used in this situation where I'm no longer here. But if it's just as hard, if it's that hard for you, imagine how hard it's going to be for your family to do it
mhm,
after you're not there and you know what you want, right? You know what you want to happen with your assets and your family. Imagine your family who doesn't know what you wanted to do,
yeah,
like who you wanted your kids to go to, who you wanted that money to go to, or how you wanted to disperse it. So
yeah.
definitely,
And if you're the like breadwinner in your family, and you don't have children, you could put anyone on as your beneficiary on your accounts as well. So, like for example, me, I have my parents on. I have my brother, my sister on. I don't have kids, I don't have a husband yet, but I definitely like know that my family depends on me, and if something were to happen to me, I wouldn't want to put extra stress on them trying to figure out, how to get my assets.
yeah. And same, I told my mom, I was like, because she will sometimes be like, ay, te vas a morir or something. And I'm like, Mom, if I die, you get all my money. I don't know what you're I'm like, please just like, don't spend a bunch of money on the funeral. Please just have a party if you want. Like celebrate my life instead, instead of crying. So, yes, definitely remember to put beneficiaries on your investment accounts, on all your investment accounts, and have backup beneficiaries as well. And if you can, have
Mm-hmm.
backups to the.
Yep. Okay, so I guess the last thing is just like resources to share. Like we said, Fidelity, you said Charles Schwab. Um, I can't think of any off the TD Ameritrade, yes, they all offer investment accounts for people that have ITIN numbers and not social security numbers. So definitely check those out. There's so many videos on YouTube. There's so many content creators talking about this stuff. So I want to like say one more thing. There's a podcast called De Peso a Peso by Lorena. She's one of the people that I met at FinCon. Her podcast is in Spanish, and I like made my parents listen to it. So if your parents only speak Spanish, or if your relatives only speak Spanish, that's a great starting point.
Yes, and she does have an Instagram page, so you guys can go search her up after this. It's called De Peso a Peso, and as we've said, her interviews are completely in Spanish. So I would, yes, also second that if your parents and family only speak Spanish, and she's gonna concentrate on the U.S. financial system, and yes, for people, for immigrants and Spanish-speaking community in the U.S.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you so much for having me, Maribel. I'm sure we'll do another live soon on multitude of topics. So, you guys.
Yes, I think we even had some topics that we didn't get to today, so totally. Thank you everyone who's seen us on the live, and if you guys missed any part of this, go rewatch it. Again, if you watch it on your desktop, you can actually speed it up to 2 times speed. So if you're like, I don't have 30 minutes, but I got 15, I do the same thing on YouTube, so go do that on your desktop. Bye, Viv, and bye everybody else who saw us today and was here with us today. Thank you guys. Thank you so much.